So my name's Joni Osip, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I worked in the hemophilia community for over 30 years until I retired this past July. I have a lot of affinity for the hemophilia community. For a few different reasons. So, as a nurse practitioner, I'm all about health prevention, and I just wanted to do something with my time now that I was retired, and thought I could, maybe do something in the hemophilia community. But the statistics show that obesity is increasing mightily in this country. I think like in 2017 to 18, it was 49% of the United States was obese, and those numbers have all increased during COVID. So that's a problem. We got a big problem. And that, along with that, diabetes is increasing. So worldwide, I think the World Health Organization said there's 450 million people with diabetes. That includes type 1 and 2. And by 2045, there'll be 700 million. That's a lot of people. And largely, a lot of the diabetes is preventable, or could be managed if people made changes in their food. From the age I was old enough to realize I was heavy, I carried that burden, and I was in and out of Weight Watchers so many times, and Jenny Craig and Seattle Sutton, hypnosis, just all the way in pay places you can imagine, and just could never get it. And like I said, I just had to come to grips with, I got more of a problem than I can't just, moderate. People would say, you can have anything you want, like Weight Watchers believes you can eat anything in moderation. I wasn't a moderation girl. And I know there are other people out there that have that same problem. So for me, it was like I had to just get clean, and just put it down. And it's not easy because it's in everything. It's everywhere. It's birthday parties, it's holidays, it's, and I like to drink alcohol as well. And that's just, I think I've had enough in my life, right? I've had enough cake, I've had enough cookies, I've had enough alcohol. And I knew that I was probably going to die early. That's how serious I was. I knew it was coming. My own sister died of pancreatic cancer. She had diabetes. She, had fatty liver disease. I don't know if it's related, but it could be. There are some cancers that are related to obesity. And I just saw the writing was on the wall, and I had to make changes. I weigh and measure my food. I don't eat any sugar. I eat protein at every meal and every snack. I have 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. I eat fruit. I eat vegetables, and a lot of them, but I just don't eat those processed foods. If I have anything that's processed, it's like a gluten-free bread. And that's probably as far as I go with processed foods. Because if you start looking into it, and we can talk about that in a minute, this country has a problem with processed foods. People have made connections between the rate of diabetes increasing and the rate of processed foods, and sugar has been introduced into the market. We've got a lot of people with sweet tooths that it may be more than just a sweet tooth. And I think some of the food is actually addictive. The University of Michigan did some studies where they found that there are certain foods that are more addictive than others. They ring that bell, like some foods ring the bell for certain people and increase dopamine and serotonin and make you feel good. We have to find other ways to do that. So I do walking, I meditate a little bit, and I get myself busy with other things when I feel like I want to ring that bell. So it's just one day at a time, right? Just one day at a time. So now I have limited fats, and also that's an important thing. A lot of the fats that are in our food supply are not great fats. Soybean oil, a lot of those kind of oils are manufactured, and so it's important to eat good fats. So I eat olive oil a lot. I have avocado sometimes. I have nuts sometimes as my fat, and I even eat butter. I just don't eat a lot of the other crappy oils. And I do measure that. I don't just slab on butter onto my vegetables. I am careful about how much fats I use. And because of that, I've lost like 75 pounds just in this past year, just doing those things. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, because I was so used to just reaching for food when I felt hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, or even alcohol was something I had to eliminate, because alcohol is a sugar. And processed foods, they're all sugar. And what happens is you take that sugar in and glucose is released in your body, right? And then insulin comes to deal with that increased glucose. But if you keep taking that amount of carbohydrates in, glucose, your body can't keep up. So then it begins storing it as fat, and it accumulates in your liver as well. And that's called fatty liver disease, which a lot of people with diabetes have, part of metabolic syndrome, right? So I was on the pathway. I didn't get diagnosed with diabetes yet, but I was very, very close. I would say start with small changes. Start reading labels. So sugar's in a lot of things that people love. So try to find things that have sugar lower on the label. Try to not rely on processed foods like fast foods as much. Try to cook more. There are lots of websites that talk about how you can, take your cheaper pieces of meat and cook them so that they're tender, and just dump in a bunch of vegetables. That's what I do. I use my slow cooker, and I cook, and I put meat with vegetables. And in the winter, I make a stew with vegetables and meat. In the summer, I can grill. So it's just like making small changes. We just got to cut back on the amount of sugar and processed foods we're eating. So read labels. Try to buy more whole foods. And if you have a hard time, that you're somebody who has a hard time stopping for whatever reason, like get rid of the sugary sodas, because those are loaded. A can of sugar has 35 teaspoons of sugar, a can of soda. And that's just so harmful. So try to make changes, reduce that, get some water, get rid of the alcohol or greatly reduce the alcohol. And I think that would be potentially very helpful. If you have diabetes, you need to probably make more changes and look at eliminating that to the best of your ability. And there are all kinds of resources out there that can help people with figuring out how to do that. Going cold turkey is not easy. I slowly eliminated my sugar, but I still had a hard time letting go of all the junk food that I like, my crunchies. So when I finally did eliminate everything, I had a couple days of having a headache and feeling tired, but I just kind of plowed through it, drank a lot of water, and I really kept focusing on why I wanted to make those changes, because I did not want to develop diabetes. As a nurse practitioner, for God's sakes, I should practice what I preach, and I just couldn't. But those foods are highly addictive, and I know now why it was hard. It wasn't my fault. Some of the foods just rang the bell for me, and I was particularly sensitive to that. So it's time we start watching what we eat. It's not about eating less and exercising more. It's about watching what we're putting into our body. So like I said, you can start by just making small changes. Get rid of the soda in your house, start drinking more water. Take a look at the ingredients on the back of the label. If sugar's high up on the label, even cereals have a lot of sugar in them. You think, oh, it's healthy, I'll just give my kid a bowl of Cheerios. Well, I think Cheerios, sugar is the second ingredient. And then, so there's a lot of sugar in cereals. And could we be giving them something else, like an egg? I know sometimes it's easier to just pop cereal in, but there are so many better foods that we could give our kids so that they don't develop the same problems we do. More protein, more fruits and vegetables, giving them those choices so they can pick healthy snacks instead of just, having donuts around and Danish and cereals and, sugar to put on the cereal. That's all just kind of harmful. So I think just start getting educated. And if you find that you want to know more about sugar addiction or carb addiction, just Google that. There's websites. There's a podcast called Food Junkies podcast. Very good. Talks all about the addictive nature of foods and how some people need more help. There's Facebook. There's a sugar-free support group. I'm Sweet Enough. There's books out there that have been written. So there are things we can do personally to make those changes that can help our healthcare providers, work with us and make our lives feel better. But if we could eliminate or decrease some of the weight we're carrying, that will help our joints. And if it just makes us feel better to get rid of sugar and we want to exercise more, we want to do more because we're not heavy with a carbohydrate fog, I think that would be great. People would just feel better. And also just start moving more with your family. I know that's not easy to do. People are working, they're on Zoom all day with their kids. This is such a weird time. So that's why I just start small and just start looking into this information more. There's a couple of books that are good if people are into reading books. There's one that's actually called Food Junkies. It's written by Vera Tarman, and she is a physician from Toronto that writes about her own struggles with, addicted to sugar and such. And then Dr. Robert Lustig, Lustig, is a pediatric endocrinologist out of San Francisco, and he's written a lot. You can just follow him on Twitter and learn so much. Follow her on Twitter, and you can learn so much about changes they recommend people make that can help them out a lot. And if you find that you're still struggling and you just can't put it down, then maybe you need to look at different 12-step programs that maybe can help treating the food addiction like an alcohol addiction. And that's very personal for people, and if they need to go that route. It all depends on how hooked you are. So if any of what I'm saying helps somebody out there, like I have that problem too. Be happy to be a resource, and you can hook them up with me. I'll talk to them. I'd be glad to help in any way I can.